We're back here on Overtime on WOTM. We'll shift gears to Alabama's pro day. It's pro day number 2 for the Crimson Tide. Now, there's been a lot of talk here about Mac Jones and a lot of talk nationally about Mac Jones, and especially after the trade that we saw last week. At the end of last week, San Francisco 49ers, to a lot of people's surprise, moved up to the number 3 spot. A lot of people thinking that quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3. Mac Jones now had the chance with a bunch of pro scouts in the house today to prove that he might be one of these top 3 quarterbacks. A lot of rumors that San Fran likes Mac Jones. Number 1, what'd you see from Mac's pro day? Did he show you anything different from maybe even pro day number 1 and or what he did throughout the regular season? And do you expect him or maybe to slip up there to that number 3 spot?
Well, I think the thing that impresses me the most about Mac Jones, that most people probably wouldn't have known, is his toughness. Mm-hmm. He's resilient.
That's right.
You saw in his first really big start against Auburn, throwing 2 pick sixes and just getting right back up and firing it at will. I think that is really a statement about him that most people probably don't think. They see him flourishing in an Alabama offense that has all these, all pros and 5-star athletes. Right. That he probably won't have the type of talent in the NFL that he had at Alabama when you consider Judy and Ruggs and Devonta Smith and Harris and Waddle. Even Billingsley and Waddle and all these guys. Okay, take your pick. But not only that, but he also had a great offensive line that gave him plenty of time to pass. Yeah. But look, the one thing I really love about him is accuracy, pinpoint accuracy. Mm-hmm. He hits these guys right on the hands. So there's a lot to like about him. He can even, to me, I think people would probably look at him as more like a Brady type because he doesn't jump out at you athletically, but he does all the little things very well as far as rotation on the ball, his feet, uses his feet very well. It's a lot of quarterback coaches say is the key to good quarterbacks is having good footwork. And mentally, he's very tough.
That's right.
You can't, playing at Alabama and winning a national championship isn't easy, but all the pressure he had on him this year. Just because you have the best players doesn't mean you're necessarily going to win. So I like the fact that, that some teams are thinking about him more than they are some of these other quarterbacks because he has the pedigree. And he had the numbers this year. He threw for over 4,500 yards, which is first in the SEC and first in football, 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and he completed 77% of his passes. Yeah. What's not to like?
Exactly. And that kind of right there touches upon the fact that he's got great accuracy, and I think a lot of people like that. And I think he wanted to show a lot of the scouts that he can move around a little bit. I mean, he's not going to – nobody will mistake him for Michael Vick. But the thing is that he can move around a little bit, and I think that he wanted to show those pro scouts that earlier on today. Speaking of those pro scouts, there's a lot of NFL personnel in Tuscaloosa today, and it made a lot of news and noteworthy points because you had head coaches like Bill Belichick of the Patriots and Matt Nagy with the Bears, Sean Payton with the Saints, Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers, also a representative from the Jets, the Dolphins, the Saints, and 49ers and Bears as far as general managers go. Do you make anything of some of these big wigs down in Tuscaloosa here today?
Well, look, I think it's a hit or miss with some of these guys. I mean, you look at some of their overall draft resumes as far as for their franchise. It's very hard to consistently draft well. I don't care how smart you are.
Right.
All right. The Belichick way in New England, you saw how well that worked once Brady left. All right. So, Pittsburgh is a team that usually knows what they're looking for and doesn't really slack off in a lot of their key areas like linebacker, running back. They usually seem to have somebody. So you have to designate which areas or what positions you're looking for. And then the player you kind of want. And then I think a lot of teams, the consistency in drafting has a lot to do with that. These teams like the Jets, which every 3-4 years have a new general manager, have a new system, have new ideas, that usually doesn't lead to success. Teams now like Kansas City and New England and Pittsburgh, like I mentioned, they usually consistently know what they're looking for, and they're able to take advantage of some of these guys. But you can't tell me that you look at, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Everybody that looked at Brady wouldn't have even noticed him if his hair was on fire. So sometimes you just can't predict these things.
Exactly. Najee Harris is the star running back for this Alabama football team, and running backs have been devalued in the league just a little bit, but he strikes me as one that could potentially shake a few feathers in the league. And then you talk about running backs that have come out of this program, and you take a look at a guy like Derrick Henry right now who's tearing the league up. And you talk about a guy like Najee Harris who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He wanted to be known as one of the wideouts. Wanted to be known as one of the guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield and kind of get himself to a second and third contract. Nick Saban yesterday very proudly mentioned the fact that almost every running back that he's had in the program that went to the NFL was drafted in the first 3 rounds, and also very productive. If you took a look at their first couple of years there, where do you see Najee Harris kind of fitting in the league?
No, I mean, really, you look at the only one that really hasn't been solidly consistent with Trent Richardson.
That's right.
But even even Eddie Lacy was pretty good before he got hurt. So I love Najee Harris's feet. Like I said, he has the best feet running inside the tackle that I've seen since Emmitt Smith. And you're able to make quick decisions and hit the hole really fast. That's what I like about him. You look at the fact this year he had 6 100-yard games, 26 rushing touchdowns, which led the nation, 1,891 yards from scrimmage, which led the nation, and 30 touchdowns from scrimmage, which led the nation. This guy is a winner. Whoever gets drafts him will have a very good running back who's used to winning, who can catch the ball coming out of the backfield. All the things you look for in a running back to be successful now, which it used to be that a running back was key to your offensive success.
Right.
Not as important anymore in some of these this new style of offense, but I think he's the throwback.
Exactly, and one of the things that was always interesting with running backs, they always tell running backs to leave early. Go to the pros after your junior year. Najee decided to stay, and he probably made himself about $20 million by coming back and staying at Alabama. He'll have a great first contract, be able to get to that second contract really quickly. So no telling how much money he made by staying at Alabama for 1 more year. Well, another guy that had his pro day today, not in Tuscaloosa, but in Columbus, Ohio, is another one from the team that Alabama played in the national championship game, is Ohio State. And Justin Fields had a great showing overall. The last couple of games before the season ended, right before the year ended, had a great game against Clemson in the playoff, and then showed a pretty good pro day. A 4.44 40-yard dash today. Had about 58 throws, all scripted, and of course we all know his deep ball accuracy is off the charts. A lot of people have some complaints that he holds the ball a little bit too long and whatnot, but what would you make of Justin Fields, and how do you project him on the next level?
Well, Cardinals Jones could throw the deep ball pretty good too, and we find out what happened to him. But look, the one thing that the red flag that I see is, we were talking before, name me their last really good quarterback to come out of Ohio State. There is none.
There's none, yeah.
So that's what would be the biggest worry for me, is that this is a program that doesn't usually put in very good quarterbacks despite all the success that they had in college. And then we get to, okay, is it just Ohio State, or is this kind of a problem overall in college with the dominant teams? And then we looked at the numbers, and we saw that, it's pretty much significant anywhere with the really great teams. They don't really have quarterbacks that have been successful in college putting up the same number in the pros.
Right.
Whether you look at Carson Palmer, or whether you look at Sam Bradford, or Jeff George going back to the early 90s, Matt Leinart at USC, that doesn't necessarily dictate success. We kind of saw that the lesser quarterbacks, like the Aaron Rodgers, who wasn't dominant at Cal as far as winning, or Andrew Luck at Stanford, kind of have the most success. So maybe that could be part of it too. But I don't care what he does. He can take off his mask and have a cape on, and I still don't think that he's going to be as good as some of these other quarterbacks that are available because of the history of Ohio State and looking at the things that he doesn't do well. Even though he did show a lot of toughness against Clemson, which should be given a lot of credit for.
Exactly. Consensus top 5 quarterbacks in the draft are expected to be Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2 of BYU, Trey Lance number 3 out of North Dakota State, Justin Fields 4, Mac Jones 5. Some combination of that, with Trevor Lawrence obviously being the number 1 pick. Meanwhile, Mark, my favorite part of Alabama's pro day was Landon Dickerson. How about this from the big guy? You saw the last time we saw him, he was hurt, and his entire team came out and helped him out. Well, obviously, the leg feels a little bit better.
The wave.
And he saw his boy Mac Jones doing an interview with both the SEC Network and the NFL Network, and he decided to get into the shot here. What do you make of the big guy with the cartwheels here?
I remember one time after a Jet game in 2015, their center coming up when Ryan Fitzpatrick was was on TV. I forget who the center was, from Ohio State,
right?
But just made a goof of it. Look, I like Landon Dickerson. Okay, this is a guy who would have been a first-round pick. You saw the effect he had on Alabama as he came over as a transfer, and they loved him. They everybody went on the field when he got hurt. Everybody was thrilled that he got to play that one snap in a national championship game. I think whoever drafts him is going to have a center that's going to be a solid guy to lead their team for the years moving forward. I would still venture to take him at the end of the first round, beginning of second round, because you know healthy, this guy can really get the job done.
Yep, and just from a clarification standpoint, Mel Kiper Jr. has him number 1 as the number 1 center on the board. Does expect him to be maybe a late first, early second round. So good to see Landon Dickerson.
We think alike.
Being the same Landon Dickerson that we met during the course of the regular season for the last few years. Coming up next here on Overtime, we will shift gears to baseball. Hard to believe, we are very, very close to the start of the regular season, a normal regular season, 162 games. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
It's been a really good show.